You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hey folks, it's Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Our latest Things That Makes Official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you, but doesn't judge you as harshly as maybe the rest of your family does, or the world. You know, the world's not very supportive, but that's why you have the Chris Voss Show as your family, because we bring you all these amazing authors with their amazing stories, with their amazing journeys. And, you know, I was talking with somebody over the weekend, and they were like, do you ever get tired of doing interviews? Do you ever get tired of talking to people and being interested in people? And are you constantly in interview mode wherever you go in life? We do a lot of interviews all week, 10 to 15 new shows we bring you a week. But no, I don't. You know, the fabric of life is stories, and it's what makes us, it's what builds us. And so the reason I love this show, the reason I love interviewing the amazing guests we have, and the reason I love the gift that it gives to our listeners is you can learn so much from people's stories, and you can get different paradigm perspective. You know, I mean, I know a lot. I know a few things fairly well, but man, I have guests on that even if I know something, they'll teach me a different perspective on it. So make sure you listen to all the shows in the Chris Voss Show and refer it to your family and friends. Today we had an amazing young man on the show. We're going to be talking about his new book that's out January 31st, 2025. It is called The Gospel of Fitness, A Rational Approach to Aging Gracefully by Stephen McKinney. And we're going to get into his deets and his story and his journey to help you live a better life. Steve has been in the fitness industry for over 30 years. He's the owner of Fitness and More, Inc., and is a first-class certified personal fitness trainer. He is the innovator of the 3W system of fitness and is a best-selling author of the book, The Gospel of Fitness, available on Amazon. In 1990, he won the Mr. Southern Illinois bodybuilding title, was a top 5 finisher in the Mr. Midwest competition. Steve specializes in private 1-to-1 high-intensity training sessions, and he currently holds the rank of black belt in jiu-jitsu. I hold the coffee belt in jiu-jitsu. I just sit and drink coffee while I watch people do jiu-jitsu. He is also the pastor of Grace East Church. Welcome to the show. How are you, Steve?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. Do they have a coffee belt in jiu-jitsu, or is that just...
I have spilled coffee on my belt, but that's as far as it goes for me.
That was close enough, you know.
Yeah, you're good.
You know, black and brown belt, that's even worse. You know, if you've got coffee and you've got a black belt, people are gonna, things are gonna happen. Actually, people around me die by jiu-jitsu if I don't have coffee. Anyway, give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interweb, sir?
The easiest way is to go fitnessandmore.net. That is my website, and there's a inquiry page right there. Steve McKinney on Facebook, and then Fitness and More STL on Instagram.
There you go. So give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside your new book, The Gospel of Fitness?
So, Chris, what it is, it literally is a rational approach to aging gracefully. And here's what I mean by that. When you go and look at wanting to get in shape, people get so confused because there's just a plethora of information on the internet. So here's how this book came about. I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I do one-to-one private training. And so what I did early on was I began to track everything that everyone did. Every client that came in, I kept records of everything they did. And then what I tried to figure out is what could they do, not for just a short period of time, but what could they do for a lifetime? And so I came up with a system of fitness, and I called it the 3W approach to fitness. It's weight training, walking, and watching your diet. And those three things, and I can give you all the details on those, working together make the most efficient, safe workout that you can do. And it is relatively short, literally 15-minute workouts 2 days per week.
Wow.
And so I set that all up in the book, and I show people how to do a home program. I show them how to do a gym program as well.
There you go. And it's that trifecta of those three aspects, right? I just can't sit on, normally I just sit and eat bonbons and fatty substances like pizza while I watch like aerobic videos. That's not the same as doing all the things with what you put in your mouth and exercise in a gym actually and stuff. I can't just assimilate that through association.
No, you can't. And
Damn it.
getting your heart rate up by watching a scary movie is not the same.
What kind of operation is this, damn it? You actually want me to exercise and not
Chris,
shove.
Here's the beautiful thing about it, though. Everything, it works together, integrates together. And so here's what weight training does. Weight training has one specific purpose, and that is to build muscle. And so that is the idea behind weight training. Now, for us as we age, it's as you age, your hormones change. And so for me at 64, I'm not trying to build muscle. I'm just trying not to lose any more muscle. And that is part of aging gracefully, And so the reason that this works so well, what I do with the training program, it's called time under tension or time under load. So I keep a person, we do one set per exercise, and then we go to the next exercise. And what I do is I keep them under the load for 60 to 90 seconds. And here's why that works so well. You have 4 different muscle fiber types, Chris, and they are slow oxidative, fast oxidative glycolytic, and fast glycolytic. Now, just keep that thought in mind. There are 4 fiber types, okay?
Okay. What about flabby? I have the flabby type.
That'll be going to watching your diet part, because that falls in the category of body fat.
Okay.
And so in those 4 fiber types, they are recruited what's called sequentially. So when you put them under a load, the first muscle type fatigues, the second muscle type takes over. So, and at about the 60 to 90 second, right in that area, is when you get to the 4th muscle fiber type. And once you get to that fast glycolytic and you stimulate that, it takes 2 to 20 seconds to stimulate that, but you have to fatigue all the other muscle fiber types first. If you don't fatigue them properly, you'll never get to that 4th point, that 4th bundle. And the interesting thing about the 4th bundle, Chris, is it takes anywhere from 4 to 10 days to recover based on the individual. That's why I only do two short sessions per week. It keeps your heart rate elevated, so you have an aerobic effect, and you build muscle in the middle. That is the most efficient way to work out.
There you go. In one set, right?
In one set. And then you go right to the next set, keeping your heart rate elevated. We call that global metabolic conditioning, which means you're doing 15 minutes of high intensity training. So you're going to get this aerobic benefit as well as the anaerobic muscle building benefit as well. And I train normal everyday people, just like us, but I also train high level athletes with it. I've used the same system on UFC fighters. My son's a jiu-jitsu guy. We run a jiu-jitsu school. So I train all my jiu-jitsu athletes the same way, because a trained muscle is a trained muscle. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's I've seen these machines at my gym. They're designed to be slow moving machines. So when you are slow moving, operations. So when you're doing this set, like how many reps you do, or how many, do you do it really slow?
You're going very slow and controlled, and you want to keep that muscle loaded the whole time. You don't want to let it unload. If you unload, then you lose that fatigue in the muscle fiber.
So you don't let the weights go all the way down.
Correct. That's exactly right. And the movements are done very slow and controlled.
Wow.
Now the loads, though, Chris, they're not super heavy. They're moderate, because you want to connect your mind to the muscle, and you want to feel what's happening in the movements. And that's what you're after. Once you do that, and here's the other part of that. I was talking to a doctor, and he's a DO, and he said that as I was talking to him about this system, he said, you know what, I'm gonna really look at what you're talking about. He's 50 years old. He goes, because he uses a different method. He goes, but my joints are hurting so bad. And I told him, that's part of anti-aging and longevity is keeping your joints healthy. So when I talk to my clients, I just say, hey, listen, we are training muscles and saving joints. That's the whole idea behind it. And so that keeps us healthy, and it allows us to be very functional as we get older.
There you go. I like that. I've seen people talking about doing slow movements. You don't even have to have a lot of weight, right?
Correct.
You can, it's all about I guess that load. That makes sense. One of the challenges I have at working out was sometimes you hit those peaks or pinnacles and you're just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
I'm doing 3 reps of 10. I try and push the weights up and make sure you try and advance if you can. But I like this system better because number one, it's a lot less reps and thing, but it really focuses on that load because, you drop the weight all the way down to where it's sitting. Now you don't have a load, and then you lift it back up between, reps. You're going up and down. So you're effectively stopping somewhere in between there.
Absolutely. And Chris, what you just mentioned is what I call the point of diminishing returns. And here's what I mean by that. What you said was you're doing 3 sets of 10, and then you're trying to push the weight up. Well, there's a certain point where you can only, strength is finite, it's not infinite. And so you get to this point to where you can only lift so much weight, and now you're using other muscle groups, you're bracing. That's not the goal. See, the goal is not how much weight I can lift. The goal is, can I deeply stimulate the muscle that I'm working? And I could use the moderate weight to do that, but I make the weight feel heavier on purpose by just really feeling what's happening and it connecting my mind to the muscle.
Yeah. Well, that would make sense. I mean, it really does. Because, that's the problem I have topping out. And then, trying to push the next level. But, usually by then you got to go load something you don't have, but then you're using the same process. But,
Yes.
yeah. And so I can see how this, and you say it takes 4 to 10 days to recover after that?
Yeah, generally what I put my clients like a Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, just to give them enough time to recover, because most people go to the gym and they recover enough to go back to the gym the next day, but they don't recover enough to get stronger. The most misunderstood thing in fitness is recovery. Most people see what everyone else is doing and they end up overtraining in the middle of that.
Yeah. And then not making any progress. I mean,
correct.
That's kind of where I am now with my working out.
Yeah, and then the other parts of that, I talk about walking and watch your diet. Well, walking, most of my clients that come to me, most people want to lose anywhere from 20 to 25 pounds or more. And so what I do with them is I obviously help them with their diet, because exercise is a very inefficient way to lose body fat. Body fat levels are primarily controlled by dietary intake. They're not controlled by exercise. Exercise does not burn that many calories. Now, if you're building muscle, Chris, what happens is your basal metabolic rate begins to increase if you have more muscle. And that's really important. But what I do with the walking aspect of it is I have people walk for 30 minutes a day, preferably after dinner. Within 15 minutes of your dinner, you take a 30-minute walk. And there was a study done. And the study, there was 3 different scenarios that this guy looked at BMR after these scenarios. The first one was walking alone, and then he checked how many calories you're burning 3 hours later. Then it was eating and walking, and then he checked the same thing, and then it was walking and eating. And what he found out was eating and then walking increased your basal metabolic rate by 25 to 30%. So when I put all these things together, Chris, what I do is I optimize everything. Everything is there for a reason. It's not just very random. It's there for a reason. And so that's how I approach the walking part of that as well.
Would it help if I ate and walked? Like I'll just
at the same time. At the same time.
Would that work? I mean, I'll just take and set up a table, some sort of weird high table over my treadmill, and then I'll just sit there and eat spaghetti while I walk.
You know what? I don't think that's been tested, but you can test it and let us know.
Now I'm hungry for spaghetti. I tried to get spaghetti last night at a place, and I went there and it was full. So now you ever feel ripped off and you're like, I need to get that spaghetti from somewhere, or steak from somewhere.
I feel you. I totally understand that. So, and then that leads us to the watching your diet part of that as well. And there's just, like I said, there's a plethora of information out there. But, the bottom line with body fat levels, it's dietary practices. Yeah. So if you want to lose weight, you have to figure out a way to create a calorie deficit. That is the biggest thing. And you want to get about a 500 calorie a day deficit, which will end up helping you lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. And that's kind of what you're after in the middle of that.
Yeah, 1 to 2 pounds a week. That's interesting. You know, what are your thoughts on protein? One of the things I've been coming back to is protein, and I'm a big intermittent faster.
Me too.
And I was really struggling with that and lifting weights and everything else. And recently I started kind of abandoning the intermittent fasting. And I've been making sure that I have that 1 gram of protein to ideally is body weight or something like that.
Yeah,
something
lean
like that.
body mass is kind of what you're
'Cause
after.
I'm like, I weigh 300 pounds right now, or less, 290 maybe, I don't know. But at 300 pounds, that's a lot of goddamn protein to drink every day.
It really is. And let me ask you this, Chris. How do you feel eating that much protein? Because I don't feel good eating copious amounts of protein. I have trouble with digestion in the middle of that. It causes flatulence. You've
Really?
got all of these things that go on.
The
And so,
flatulence might be a little bit of milk to lactose intolerance. So I solved that problem. I buy a protein called Naked Nutrition, and it's really simple. It doesn't have a lot in it.
Yep.
And I'm also lactose intolerant. So yeah, if I drink normal protein whey, there's a nuclear strike that happens
yes.
within my body, and it's not good for anyone nearby. But so what I found is I shoot for 200, a weight of 200, and so I try and eat 200 grams, which is about 4 or 5 protein shakes. Yeah, by the end of the day, I'm kind of grossed out a little bit, but it's really been working for me. Like, I've never felt better in all my life.
I love that. I love to hear that.
Doing
That's
the thing.
great.
So I don't know if I'm doing anything right. All I know is I feel better. And the intermittent fasting, while I love intermittent fasting, I lost 100 pounds intermittent fasting. I love it for, if I need to correct some stuff in my diet or just kind of maybe feel better. I've actually felt more better having a protein shake in the morning and having 4 to 5 of them throughout the day at about 30 to 40 grams of pure. And I think I average about 5. I think I try and get to 6, but I think I average about 5. And I've never felt better ever before.
I love that.
So I don't know.
Now, do you have, what are your goals?
I'd like to lose weight, and I seem to be losing some weight I've reached a point where I seem to be doing a lot of muscle fat burning, and I can work out maybe twice a week. And I could do more, but I've kind of found I can kind of maintain a little bit. But I like your system. I'm going to try your system because I've kind of peaked. I'm kind of stuck.
Chris, what I would say too, and I talk about this in the book, what you need to do, if I were advising you, and I do a lot of that one-on-one advice for people when I, get people who are very busy and want to get some stuff done, and I'll do about 4 or 5 of those a month. But what I do in that situation is I would say we need to measure what you're doing. And what I mean by that is you're obviously measuring your protein intake, but we need to measure overall caloric intake. That way we can come up with that. If we can measure it, then we can adjust it. So my advice in this situation for you would be I would weigh on a regular basis. I would weigh under the same conditions. Like, for example, every morning when you wake up, if you need everyday feedback, some people like once a week, it's just based on the individual. But I would check my weight, then I would look at how many calories I'm eating, and then I would look at am I losing 1 to 2 pounds a week? And if I'm not, then I make that slight adjustment to make it happen.
There you go.
So,
yeah, measure everything so you know what you're doing wrong and what you're doing. Tell us about your journey through life. You've done a lot of cool things. People like to hear the history of what people got into it. What got you into some of these fields? I know that you call it the gospel of fitness. You're a preacher. Tell us about your journey through life and kind of how you got down some of these roads.
Okay, so the weight training thing, it actually happened when I was like 9 years old. My grandfather took me to a place. He said, "I'm going to buy you a gift for your birthday." It was some event. I think it was my birthday. And he said, "We're going to Kmart." Remember Kmart?
Oh, yeah.
So he bought me some Alcatron weights. And they were cement weights, but I just fell in love with lifting weights, and I read all the books about it. I lifted weights 6 days a week, made no gains whatsoever. I'm 9 years old. So, but I stayed with that. I stayed with that whole my whole life. I've always lifted weights and I've always loved it. Played a lot of sports. Now with the preaching thing and how that came about, it's a very odd thing. But and I talk about this in the book. It's one of the reasons that I do fitness. But both my parents died at a very young age.
Oh, no.
Both of them died at 49 years old. My mother died on Christmas morning in my arms at 49, and her dying words were, "Serve Jesus, tell your brother to serve Jesus." Now, for me at the time, I didn't even know what that meant. And so that began the journey into that field there. And still to this day, I'm still, running a church, and, have a very nice church for people to gather in. And it's really, really a cool place. And so, but that was where my passion came from, because I'm like, man, my parents died so young and they missed so much in life. And it was just, it's just, if I could help people not have to experience that, that was my goal there. And
yeah. Did you ever, some people see that and they have survivor's guilt, and they worry that that's their cap on life. Like I have that with my father. My father died about 74 or 74, I think it was. And so sometimes I look at my time that's left at, am I gonna follow my dad's DNA? And my health's much better than his by 10, 15 years at this point. And he had some things that were pretty much with him and his heart and his liver and kidneys. But did you ever wonder that? Did you ever think maybe I'll only live to 40?
Absolutely. Because when I would go to the doctor, and I started going regularly in my 40s, I would tell them my family history while they're filling out a chart, and they would always look over the chart at me like going, "Hey, you got about 9 years left." But here's the way I look at it now. I look at every day as icing on the cake. I'm 64 now. I'm still in very, very good shape. I'm very thankful for that. I still train a lot. I still go to the gym regularly. But yeah, there's those thoughts in the middle of it. And you're going, holy cow, this is, it's really crazy. That mortality thing, when you're around death, it really, really opens your eyes. It really does. I have a guy in my gym. His name's Steve. He was actually in the gym with me this morning, and he started early on. It was over 30 years ago. And when he came to me, I was like, "Steve, what is your goals?" And I think he weighed 258, because I remember I had a before and after picture of him. And I said, "What are your goals?" And he goes, "I just want to be able to play with my grandchildren," because his dad died at a very young age. Wow. And so now he has, 30 years later, has 2 grandchildren, tells me stories about them all the time. So for me, I just look at that and I go, what a great accomplishment on both of our parts, being able to help him do that, and he's still in the game.
Yeah. Some people, it happens with suicide too, suicide survivors. And sometimes you'll find that there'll be a generation of suicide. It's a blueprint that gets set. It's an example that gets set. It's a bad example, sadly. But you kind of wonder, where you're at, and like that's kind of one of my obsessions. But I think it shapes you in a way. Like you mentioned that you value every day. You wake up. You're very appreciative that you're above ground, and so it seems like it had an effect on you to appreciate life more.
No question. I live my life with gratitude. I really honestly do. Every morning I have a journal. I journal. I always say the secret of your success is in your daily routine. And part of my journaling is I have three things that I'm thankful for every morning. And that's just part of my daily routine.
There you go. And so what caused the proponent for you to write the book?
So it was really odd how it happened. So I train a lot of different people. And when I take people through a workout, or I advise them in one way or another, every single time, here's what they'll say, "Chris, that is the best workout I've ever felt in my life." And so what happened was, I have a private Facebook page. I call it the Gospel of Fitness Inner Circle. And in the middle of that, I have all my clients over the years. And what I do is I just add value to their lives. I just write stuff for them. I always have, fitness tips and things like that. And I was just writing this book just for my clients. I was just going to send it to them. Well, there was a guy that I trained probably 8 years ago. We were at a conference, and I trained him, and he said, "Wow, that was the best workout I've ever had." And he's had me on his podcast a few times, and he's always asking me questions. His name's Pete.
Mhm.
And one day he's asked me questions. I said, Pete, you know what? I have a book and I'm about 90% done with it. I can just send it over to you. And he goes, I'll tell you what. He goes, please do, because we have a publishing company, and I didn't know that.
Oh,
And
wow.
so he looked at the book and they said, hey, yeah, we'd like to work with you. And so from there, I went back and just redid a lot of things, made sure it was how I wanted it. And then we released it on the 31st, and it immediately shot to #1 in a couple of categories. So I was pumped by that. And so I've been on a book tour in Florida. I got some local stuff I'm still doing, a lot of podcasts that I've been doing. So I'm just having a blast with it. And I love talking about this stuff. So that's where the idea of the book came about, just to get it to a broader audience, cast a wider net, and get people to understand that, hey, there, even though there's all this information out there, you can narrow it down. You can narrow down the amount of information. And that's why, like, I recently I did a session, and I had several hundred people there, and I opened it up for question and answer. And so when question and answer comes through, I can always answer the question because I run it through a certain framework, and I run it through that 3W approach to fitness framework, and I can answer questions in that way. So that's kind of how it all plays out.
There you go. And what a journey. I mean, what effect did the turns and trials of our lives make?
Oh
for
my
us,
gosh.
and how we can do new things and stuff. So as we go out, tell us about some of the offerings you have on your website, things you do for people,
Yeah.
how
So
they can work with you.
what we do is I do online consults for people.
Mhm.
So that, once again, just the easiest way is that fitnessandmore.net inquiry page, where you're just looking for a free intro workout. And so then what I do is I train a lot of clients. I train clients all over the country, people in Hollywood, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Alabama. And we do it just virtually, but
Mhm.
also I coach them. So that's one way we do it. The other way, obviously, is people who buy the book, they can come into that Gospel of Fitness inner circle, and we help them out with that. And then emails are steve@fitnessandmore.net.
Mhm.
And so those are there. But we help people in all kinds of ways. I have several different programs, but the biggest way is just that virtual training thing, so people can get just some very good advice. I just had a new client last week, and it was her first workout. She's a gym goer, and her workout took about 13 minutes, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so in on this." So yeah, so we work with people in that way.
There you go. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So give people a final pitch out to onboard with you, how they can reach out, how they can get to know you better, calls, whatever the case may be, and then also how people can order the book.
Sure. So the book is available at Amazon. It's also on Barnes and Noble online, but Amazon is the easiest way. So that's how you can get the book. I'm going to give you a final thought too. The way I look at it, here's how I go about it. Weight training is good for your body. Walking is good for your brain, and watching your diet is good for your biology.
Yeah.
And those three things together seem to really work. And then if people want to inquire more, that intro workout page on fitnessandmore.net is very helpful, and we can communicate from there. Email steve@fitnessandmore.net, and then Instagram is fitnessandmorestl.
There you
And
go.
those are ways that people can reach out to me. And people who don't have time, who've gotten themselves out of shape, I can work with those people online and just make a huge difference in their life.
There you go. I love how online can do this now.
It's
No matter
amazing.
where you are in the world, you can get some help.
Yep.
And so definitely wonderful. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, Steve. We really appreciate it.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And thanks, audience, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss and all those places we are on the internet. You can order the book wherever fine books are sold, The Gospel of Fitness, A Rational Approach to Aging Gracefully. And boy, do I need some more grace in aging. Less lactose. There you go. Out January 31st, 2025. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. And that's